Grab the news by the horns with The Call every weeknight at 9 on New York One.
A bill with growing support in the council would make it more difficult to deport some undocumented immigrants. Would you support that? What if it saved the city tens of millions of dollars a year? The Call starts now. Thanks for joining The Call, the first interactive newscast where you tell us what's news. I'm John Schumo. We'll have your top stories from NY1.com coming up. Some local lawmakers say they're tired of yielding to the U.S. government, to the federal government's unreasonable immigration requests. The City Council's considering a bill that would change the way the Department of Correction works with federal immigration authorities, resulting in fewer immigrant deportations. Here's how the system currently works. The DOC shares its list of immigrant inmates, including those who are undocumented, with federal authorities. These authorities then take custody of the inmates, detain and deport many, even if they're cleared of the charges they were arrested for. Under the proposed legislation, the city would have the power to deny the federal government's request to hold immigrants for deportation, even after they're released from jail. Does this bill sound reasonable to you? Do you support a change in policy to protect undocumented immigrants? Call 866-NY1-TALK to join the conversation. That's 6918255. You can also email The Call at ny1.com or tweet us at NY1TheCall with your first name and neighborhood. We'll have your thoughts in a few minutes. Right now, your top stories. Your top story is tonight's topic. The City Council is debating a bill that would make it harder for the federal government to deport immigrants from Rikers Island, even if they're here illegally. Currently, thousands of immigrant inmates are transferred to ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, regardless of the nature of their crime. The proposed legislation would change that by stopping the transfer of immigrants from DOC to ICE if prosecutors decline to press charges against them. Supporters argue the current policy penalizes people who don't pose a public safety threat, but some say the council bill is a get-out-of-jail-free card for undocumented immigrants. What do you say? Do you support a change in policy to protect some undocumented immigrants? Call now, 866-NY1-TALK. Corporate zombies take over the steps of City Hall. Hundreds of Occupy Wall Street protesters, covered in white face paint, carrying fake money, gathered to protest corporate greed and what they say was police brutality during the weekend. More than 700 people were arrested for blocking traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge Saturday. Meanwhile, in a show of support to protesters, the Transport Workers Union filed a lawsuit against the NYPD and the MTA today. Local 100 wants to stop its drivers from being forced to transport arrested protesters. And your third-ranked story, Mayor Bloomberg takes the stand in the trial of a former campaign aide accused of bilking the mayor of more than $1 million. Prosecutors accused John Haggerty of creating a fake ballot security operation to funnel funds during the mayor's 2009 re-election bid. During his testimony, the mayor admitted he never personally made any attempt to get his money back. He also defended his decision to fund the poll watching through a political party rather than paying for it directly. Defense attorneys are accusing the mayor of using their client as a scapegoat to avoid questions about possible campaign finance violations. The trial is expected to wrap up next week. Haggerty faces up to 25 years in prison if convicted. And those are your top three stories from the Viewer Rundown on NY1.com. Producer Danielle Rondinone joins us from the control room with a look at what else New Yorkers are talking about. Danielle.
Shimo, I have to say I really agree with the way the voters ranked everything tonight. The top three stories, our topic being the first, and the Haggerty trial is definitely a big deal considering the mayor actually testified today as a witness. That's pretty big. Of course, number 10, the Yankees, because, you know, our viewers don't care much about that, and that works out well for us. They're in Detroit, Game 3 of the American League Division Series. They hope to win, and our viewers don't care.
Yeah, and once again, Sports on One, the last word. For those who do care, the game's on now. For the care, they'll be watching. We've said that over the years many times. The Yankees always seem to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, we're getting a lot of emails, and I'm sure the calls are coming in as well. So, and we have a guest, so let's get to it. All right, Danielle, thanks. If you're curious, you can see the complete viewer rundown on our webpage, ny1.com/the call right after the program. We'll take a break. Hear from you next. Immigration rights advocates say protecting more foreign-born inmates would keep families together, restore confidence in the criminal justice system, and save the city millions of dollars. Do you support this bill? Shirley in Maspeth does not. She emailed earlier to say, quote, I think the council should not pass this bill because these inmates already committed a felony by entering the U.S. illegally. What do you say? Do you agree with Shirley? If someone is in the U.S. illegally, should he or she be deported regardless of circumstance? We'll have your calls, emails, and tweets coming up next on The Call.
The criminal alien program in New York City has led to the detention and removal of some criminals, but it has also led to the detention and removal of many, many thousands of individuals who do not have a criminal record in the present or in the past, and therefore no case can be made that they are a threat now to the public safety. So what goal of keeping the public safe is accomplished by deporting these thousands of individuals, destabilizing their families, and creating a rift between the immigrant community and the police department of New York City?
If you've got something to say, share your opinion on The Call. 1-866-NY1-TALK. Email thecall@ny1.com or tweet us at NY1TheCall.
Whoever said getting there is half the fun? Never experience rush hour in New York City. But for the rest of us, there's the Rail and Road Report on New York One. We can't make it fun, but we can make it easier with up-to-the-minute transit and traffic information. The Rail and Road Report, morning and evening rush hours at 8 and 38 past the hour, only on New York One.
Health hazards, unfair tickets and tows, safety issues, scams to steal your money. New Yorkers are no strangers to fraud, ripoffs, and bureaucratic runarounds. If you fought and failed, New York One for You can help. I'm Susan Junn, and you can count on me to get you results. I've exposed fraud, battled the city, and cut through some really thick red tape. Call our 24-hour helpline or email ny1foryou@ny1.com. Then catch my reports throughout the week only on New York One.
The New York Times, the articles, the journalists, their stories. New York One presents the New York Times Close Up, Saturday nights at 10 and Sunday mornings at 10, only on New York One.
They should allow all kinds of people to go to jail and stay in jail and come home and go back to the United States if they here already. Why are you going to deport them? They already did their time, paid for their crime, let them do their thing.
The problem is any of these kind of rules are very generic, and you got to take each one of these cases pretty much individually. You can't just go blanket policying this kind of stuff. I mean, these people have been here for 20 years or 30 years who've been paying taxes and working here and stuff like that. So you can't just go deporting people willy-nilly.
When somebody has been convicted of a crime, if their time is served and if their case is cleared, then I think they should have the same shot as anybody else.
Welcome back to The Call. I'm John Schumo. Council lawmakers are debating a bill that would make it more difficult for federal authorities to deport foreign-born inmates being held at Rikers Island, including undocumented ones. Currently, anyone in the system who was not born in the United States can be detained for questioning by the feds. And hundreds are deported every year, even if they never face charges on the crimes they were arrested for. A bill in the council would change that. Would you support it? If an immigrant is in the United States illegally, should he or she be deported regardless of circumstance? Call us toll-free at 866-NY1. Talk to join the conversation. That's 691-8255. You can also email The Call at ny1.com or tweet us at ny1thecall with your first name and neighborhood. To answer your questions tonight and walk us through the bill, we welcome its co-sponsor, Councilwoman Melissa Mark-Viverito. Thanks for coming in. We know it's been a long day for you. And we appreciate you coming in. So you had the hearing today. First off, how'd it go?
It went very well. I mean, there's been a lot of reporting over the weekend about the bill now that the administration has come on board. So we had testimony from the administration, from advocates, from former Manhattan District Attorney Morgenthau. So it was a very, very positive hearing today.
You mentioned now that the administration has come on board. That's Mayor Bloomberg's administration. What changed? The mayor was against it before he was for it. Why do you think the administration changed its stance?
Well, I think that they basically had indicated some concerns originally. We had meetings with them about the concerns that had been raised about the cooperation between the Department of Corrections and immigration agents at Rikers Island. But again, through the conversations and through negotiation and through looking at the legislative solution that we were offering, they finally saw that this was the right balance, and that's what was indicated today by the Senior Policy Advisor, John Feinblatt.
Current policy only serves to destabilize families. That's what we've heard from you over the weekend and the other co-sponsors on the bill. Speak to the very real impact that the current policy has on foreign-born inmates, whether they're here legally or illegally.
Well, basically, we have a challenge clearly at the federal level. We have 12 million undocumented immigrants. That's the reality. They live within our boundaries. They're here. They're contributing, for the most part, positively to the economy. So what we have as a challenge is that now with this relationship of the federal immigration agents in Rikers Island, Department of Corrections has been sharing information with them on all the inmates that are brought into Rikers Island, and the ICE agents have been able to drop detainers, which basically begins the deportation process on individuals. What we found through the Department of Corrections' own data is that for over 50% of the individuals who have had detainers dropped on them are people that have absolutely no prior criminal conviction, people that at the end of the day would have been released on their own recognizance out of Rikers Island while they were awaiting their trial. So this is what we were aiming, is on really limiting the access that immigration agents had to the inmates that were being brought to Rikers, to ensure that we really go after the people that the law is intending. It's the criminal alien program. It's looking at, we're supposed to be targeting hardened criminals that pose a risk to safety and security. Someone who has had no prior criminal conviction, who has a minor offense, is not the intent of this legislation in terms of the federal program. Our legislation seeks to really put the attention and the resources where it should be.
Here's an email from Bernie in Woodside out in Queens. Undocumented immigrants are breaking the law by the fact that they are not supposed to be here. What's the problem with Speaker Quinn and those who support the bill understanding this simple fact? By placing legal and illegal immigrants in the same basket is an insult to those in the country legally. Now, you've heard that, the get out of jail free critique on the bill and the process in general before. What's the response to that critique?
The response is that the majority of immigrants who come to this country are here to provide for their families and are looking for a better way. They are contributing positively to our local economies and to our national economy. The reality, as I mentioned, is that we do have 12 million undocumented immigrants, and that has to be resolved at the federal level. We as a city, though, who values the contributions that immigrants make, should not be using our resources to ensnare and entrap people in this broken immigration system. And so what we should do is really fine-tune and where we allocate our resources. This legislation is telling the Department of Corrections that where we want our resources allocated is to really go after what the intent of this policy is, to go after people who do pose that risk to safety and security. Why are you going to have a young man at 18 years of age who basically is brought to Rikers Island and falsely accused, then all the charges get dropped, yet he has a detainer dropped on him, he's sent to a deportation center in Texas for 2 years, is contributing positively, he's in school, bettering himself? That's not the intent of the program. That's not who really that program is supposed to go after. You want to go after the drug dealers, you want to go after those people